Imagine looking a ship engineer in the eye and asking with zero irony if the massive vessel you are standing on is powered by a giant extension cord plugged all the way back into Miami. We dug through the wildest crew confessionals to bring you 49 verified, brain-melting passenger demands that prove common sense is often left at the pier, from the guy who wanted to visit the engine room hamsters to the bride demanding the crew deploy a non-existent weather dome. These stories are painfully real, so smash that subscribe button and settle in, because number 19 will make you question the future of humanity. 1. A grumpy middle-aged man in a loud floral shirt stormed up to the guest services desk. He slammed his hand on the counter. His face was bright red with pure anger. The receptionist calmly asked him what the problem was. The man screamed that the elevators were broken. He yelled that he pressed the button for the front of the ship, but the elevator only went up and down. He demanded they fix the elevators immediately so he could travel horizontally. The staff member stared at him in total silence. She tried to explain physics, but the man insisted the captain was just lazy. It was a moment of pure stupidity. 2. A wealthy suburban mother stopped a tired cabin steward in the hallway. She looked very confused about the logistics of ship life. She leaned in close to whisper a serious question. She asked the crew member if they sleep on the boat, or does a helicopter come to pick them up every single night? The steward blinked slowly in disbelief. He wondered where 2,000 crew members would park their helicopters. He politely explained that they live below deck. The woman looked horrifyingly shocked at this news. She genuinely believed a fleet of choppers arrived nightly. She walked away shaking her head at the terrible commute. 3. A self-entitled tech bro approached the bridge officers with extreme arrogance. He looked at his expensive watch and frowned deeply. The ship was scheduled to leave port in exactly 10 minutes. But this passenger had a much better idea for the schedule. He demanded the captain keep the massive vessel docked for 4 extra hours. He wanted to watch a SpaceX rocket launch from the deck. The officer explained that thousands of people were waiting to leave. The man screamed that the captain worked for him personally. He insisted he paid enough to own the schedule. The crew had to threaten security to make him leave. He pouted like a toddler. 4. A wealthy grandmother called the front desk at 6 in the morning. She was absolutely furious about her ocean view balcony. She claimed she paid extra to watch the beautiful sunrise while eating breakfast, but the sun was rising on the starboard side of the ship. Her cabin was unfortunately on the port side. She demanded the captain turn the entire cruise ship around immediately. She wanted the vessel to rotate 180 degrees just for her toast. The receptionist tried to explain how nautical navigation works. The woman hung up in disgust. She later left a 0-star review online. She claimed the ocean was broken. 5. A confused businessman stormed down to the lobby with his luggage. He had just boarded the ship 5 minutes prior. He was waving his ticket in the air angrily. He shouted that he had paid specifically for an ocean view room. But when he looked out his window, he only saw cars. He screamed that he was looking at a dirty parking lot. The poor receptionist explained that the ship was still docked at the pier. She told him the ship had to actually move first. The man refused to listen to logic. He demanded they move the ocean closer to his window. Everyone in line laughed at him. 6. A very intense mother marched into the guest relations office on day 1. She had a toddler clinging to her leg nervously. She slammed a map of the ship on the counter. She demanded that the crew disconnect every electric hand dryer on board. She wanted them disabled in every single public restroom for 7 days. She explained that the noise was too loud for her child. The crew member explained there were hundreds of dryers on the ship. The mother did not care about hygiene or logistics. She insisted the captain send an electrician immediately. She threatened to sue the cruise line for emotional distress. The crew just handed her paper towels. 7. An older gentleman in a bucket hat cornered a ship engineer. He had a look of deep philosophical thought on his face. He pointed at the lights flickering on the deck. He asked a question that made the engineer question reality. The man asked if the ship generated its own power, or did they run a really long extension cord back to Miami? He was completely serious about this electrical theory. He worried that the cord might get tangled in the coral reefs. The engineer stared at him for a long time. He eventually explained they have massive engines. The man looked disappointed. He really liked the big cord idea. 8. A frantic teenage girl called guest services late at night. She sounded very stressed about her schedule for the evening. She asked the receptionist a question that baffled the entire staff. She wanted to know exactly what time the midnight buffet started. The crew member paused for a confused second. He slowly replied that it starts at midnight. The girl got angry and asked for a specific time on the clock. She did not understand that midnight was a time. She thought it was just a fancy name for late snacks. She eventually hung up feeling very misunderstood. The crew member had to take a break to laugh. 9. A posh elderly woman walked into the main dining room carrying a bag. She stopped the head waiter before dinner service began. She pulled out her own expensive linen tablecloths from home. She told the staff she refused to eat on their cheap fabric. She demanded the kitchen staff wash and iron her personal cloths daily. She wanted her specific table set with them every single night. The waiter politely explained they do not offer private laundry services for tables. The woman was absolutely scandalized by this refusal. She ate dinner with her tablecloth folded on her lap. She glared at the waiter the entire time. It was incredibly awkward. 10. A high-maintenance beauty queen called the bridge during a storm. The waves were high and the ship was rocking gently. She was in the middle of getting ready for formal night. She demanded to speak to the officer in charge of navigation. She asked if they could turn off the rocking motion for an hour. She explained that the movement was messing up her hair curlers. She claimed she could not get her bangs straight while moving. The officer explained that he could not control the ocean. The woman sighed loudly and called him incompetent. She truly believed the ship had a switch to stop the waves. 11. A hungry elderly woman called guest services in a panic. She shouted that her microwave was completely broken. She claimed she had been trying to reheat a cheeseburger for 20 minutes. The maintenance crew rushed to her cabin to assist her. They found her safe locked tight with the food inside. She had been punching her PIN code thinking it was the cook time. She genuinely believed the heavy metal box was a heating device. The crew retrieved her cold burger while trying not to laugh. She blamed the ship for having confusing kitchen appliances in the bedroom. It was a classic case of technology confusion. 12. A very patriotic man was watching football in the sports bar. He stood up abruptly and marched over to the bartender. He was furious that the international crew members were cleaning tables. The American national anthem was playing on the television screens above. He demanded to know why the staff from Italy and Philippines were not standing at attention. He filed a formal written complaint about their lack of respect. The manager had to explain that they were not American citizens. The man refused to accept this logic. He believed everyone on Earth should salute his flag. It was an awkward display of nationalism. 13. A curious tourist stood at the excursion desk looking at a map. He pointed a finger at a small Caribbean island on the wall. He asked the shore excursion manager a question that stopped time. He wanted to know if the island was completely surrounded by water. He also asked if it floated or was connected to the bottom. He was worried the island might drift away while they were visiting. The staff member stared at him in total silence for a moment. She politely explained that islands are actually mountains coming out of the sea. The man looked skeptical about this geological fact. 14. A nervous flyer who was new to cruising cornered the captain. He looked out at the deep blue ocean with pure fear. He asked what happens when the ship drops the massive anchor. He wanted to know if the ship stops moving completely, or do they drag the anchor along the ocean floor while sailing? He had a mental image of a metal hook destroying the seabed. The captain laughed and explained they only anchor when stopped. The man was relieved the ship did not plow the earth. He thought the anchor was like a parking brake for a moving car. 15. A cowboy from Texas booked an expensive dolphin encounter in Nassau. He showed up to the dock wearing swimming trunks and a hat. When the trainers introduced the animals, he became visibly angry. He started yelling that he paid good money to ride them. He demanded to saddle the dolphin like a wild stallion into the sunset. The trainers explained that dolphins are delicate animals and not seahorses. The man screamed that the brochure was misleading and false advertising. He stormed off the pier, demanding a full refund immediately. He genuinely thought he could gallop across the ocean waves on a fish. 16. A woman was sunbathing on the very top deck of the ship. She flagged down a passing crew member with a confused look. She took a sip of her cocktail and asked a question. She wanted to know exactly how far above sea level they were. She completely ignored the fact that the ocean was directly below her. She seemed to think sea level was a mountain measurement or altitude. The crew member politely told her they were about 15 stories up. She nodded wisely as if she understood the math. She truly forgot that a boat literally floats at the level of the sea. 17. A furious passenger marched to the front desk with a dripping suitcase. His bag had accidentally fallen into the water during the loading process. He slammed the wet luggage on the counter and screamed at staff. He asked if the captain had dragged his bag behind the ship. He genuinely believed they towed his suitcase with a rope from Miami. He thought the ship just pulled luggage through the Atlantic Ocean for fun. The receptionist tried to explain it was just a loading dock accident. The man refused to listen and demanded dry clothes. He was convinced his bag had water skied for 3 days. 18. A resourceful woman approached the chef at the dinner buffet line. She held up a plastic bucket she bought at a gift shop. She asked if she could take it on her snorkeling trip. She planned to catch fresh shrimp in the ocean by herself. She then expected the ship cooks to fry her personal catch for dinner. The chef looked at her with a mixture of horror and confusion. He explained that wild shrimp do not just jump into buckets. He also mentioned severe health code violations regarding mystery seafood. The woman was disappointed she could not hunt for her own appetizer. 19. A confused traveler approached the concierge desk with a serious itinerary question. He was looking at a map of the Pacific Ocean carefully. He asked how long the train ride was to the islands. He believed there was an underwater train from California to Hawaii. He thought the cruise ship was just one of many transport options. The concierge politely explained that there are no tracks on the ocean floor. The man argued that he saw it in a movie once. He was genuinely shocked that he had to fly or sail. He thought humanity had built a 3,000-mile tunnel. 20. A car enthusiast was staring out at the endless blue horizon. He stopped a deck officer and pointed at the empty water. He asked a question about the logistics of the ship engines. He wanted to know if the ship stops at gas stations. He imagined there were floating fuel pumps in the middle of the ocean. He was worried they would run out of gas and get stranded. The officer explained that the ship carries enough fuel for weeks. The man was amazed they did not need to pull over. He honestly thought there was a floating 7-Eleven in the Atlantic. 21. A confused woman stood in the photo gallery looking overwhelmed. There were thousands of printed photos on the walls. She grabbed a staff member by the arm anxiously. She explained she had forgotten her specific cabin number. She asked how she would know which pictures were hers without it. She expected the photos to psychically know her location. The photographer tried not to laugh at her question. He explained she just needed to recognize her own face. She truly believed the photos were sorted by room number only. She thought if she did not know her room, she would vanish. It was a bizarre moment of total logic failure. 22. A dog owner called housekeeping with a very urgent question. She sounded deeply concerned about the plumbing situation on board. She demanded to know if the toilet water was fresh. She specifically asked if it was salty ocean water. The housekeeper was confused why she needed to know this. The woman explained she did not want her dog drinking salt. She let her expensive poodle drink from the toilet bowl. The staff member was horrified by this sanitary revelation. She explained it was fresh water, but still gross. The woman was relieved her dog had high-quality toilet water. She prioritized hydration over basic hygiene. 23. A grown man in his 40s approached the engine room door. He was wearing a serious expression and holding a camera. He asked the chief engineer for a private tour below. He said he really wanted to see the hamsters. The engineer asked him to clarify what he meant exactly. The passenger said he wanted to watch the hamsters running. He believed giant rodents on wheels powered the massive ship. He was not joking or being sarcastic at all. The engineer had to explain they used diesel engines. The man looked crushed that there were no giant rodents. He walked away, feeling lied to by cartoons. 24. A frantic wife ran up to the guest services desk. She was out of breath and looked very panicked. She slammed her hands down and asked if they saw him. The receptionist asked who she was looking for exactly. The woman screamed she was looking for her missing husband. The crew member asked for his name or a photo. The woman had nothing and provided zero physical description. She expected the staff to just know her husband. She stood there waiting for them to magically find him. It was like she thought he was the only man on board. The crew could not help her without a name. 25. An angry swimmer climbed out of the main deck pool. He was dripping wet and shivering in the wind. He cornered a pool attendant with a serious complaint. He argued that the water was way too rough today. He claimed the currents from the ocean were leaking in. He pointed at the drain and said it was broken. He believed the Atlantic Ocean was seeping into the swimming pool. The attendant explained that the ship was moving. The water sloshes because of basic physics and movement. The man refused to believe this simple scientific fact. He demanded they plug the leak to stop the currents. 26. A disoriented guest was standing in the middle of a stairwell. He was looking up and down with total confusion. He stopped a passing officer and pointed at the steps. He asked if these specific stairs went up or down. The officer stared at him for a long, awkward moment. He explained that stairs work in both directions universally. The man seemed amazed by this architectural revelation. He thought there were separate stairs for each direction. He was afraid of walking up the down staircase. It was a moment that made the officer worry for humanity. The guest thanked him and walked down very slowly. 27. A furious passenger called the cruise line corporate office screaming. He had missed the ship while docked in Nassau. He admitted that he overslept and woke up at noon. The ship had left the port 2 hours prior. He demanded a full refund for the missed hours. He felt the ship should have waited for him personally. He argued that his alarm clock was broken by humidity. The representative explained the ship runs on a strict schedule. The man insisted they owed him money for leaving him behind. He did not understand that ships do not wait for sleepers. He was stuck on an island alone. 28. A fascinated woman was watching the ice carving demonstration on deck. She waited until the chef was finished with his art. She leaned in close to ask a culinary secret. She asked what they do with the ice afterwards. She wanted to know if they refreeze the melted water. She thought they froze it back into the same shape. The chef looked at her with a bewildered expression. He explained that water melts and loses its shape forever. The woman argued that it was a waste of a swan. She truly believed ice had a memory and could return to its form. It was magical thinking. 29. A health-conscious woman called maintenance with a bizarre concern. She was worried about the air quality in her cabin. She asked if the air conditioning pumped in fresh air. She wanted to know if it was recycled ocean air. She claimed she was severely allergic to fish and seafood. She believed breathing air from the sea would kill her. The engineer explained that air does not contain fish protein. The woman insisted on seeing the air filtration schematics. She wore a surgical mask inside her room all week. She was terrified that a fish molecule would fly through the vent and attack her lungs. 30. An optimistic fisherman walked into the main dining room smiling. He was carrying a fishing rod and a tackle box. He asked the head waiter for a special table outside. He wanted to fish off his balcony during dinner service. He then expected the kitchen to cook whatever he caught. He thought he could just drop a line into the dark ocean. The waiter explained that fishing from balconies is strictly prohibited. He also mentioned the ship was moving too fast for fish. The man was angry he could not catch his own meal. He called the restaurant a prison for not allowing fresh catch. 31. A stubborn traveler got into a heated argument with guest services. The ship had crossed 3 different time zones that week. The captain announced the clocks were changing back 1 hour. The man slammed his fist on the counter in protest. He demanded to stay in his home time zone forever. He claimed that changing his watch was too confusing for him. He refused to acknowledge that ship time was actually real. He missed every single show and dinner reservation that week. He wandered around the ship like a time traveler. He blamed the captain for stealing an hour of his life. He was living in the past, literally. 32. A very intoxicated woman created a scene on the pool deck. It was late at night and the party was loud. She climbed up the base of the official ship flagpole. She started screaming at the security guards who came running. She demanded that they lower the cruise line flag immediately. She wanted to fly her neon pink bra as the flag. She claimed it was the official flag of the day. The security team had to gently talk her down. She insisted her underwear represented freedom for all the passengers. She was escorted to her cabin to sleep it off. The bra did not fly that night. 33. A frustrated teenager stormed into the internet cafe on board. He was holding his phone up to the ceiling angrily. He complained that the connection speed was terrible that day. The manager apologized and said satellite internet can be slow. The boy shook his head and offered his own theory. He claimed the Wi-Fi signal was weak because of weather. He said it was too windy outside on the open ocean. He believed the wind was blowing the Wi-Fi signal away. He thought the internet was a physical cloud floating by. The manager tried to explain radio waves do not blow away. The boy just blamed the breeze. 34. A confused patron sat at the bar ordering expensive cocktails. He racked up a bill of over $100. When it was time to pay, he pulled out a card. He handed the bartender a local public library card confidently. The bartender stared at the plastic card in total confusion. The man insisted it had credit on it for drinks. He claimed his library fines were paid, so it was money. He did not understand the difference between a Visa and a library pass. Security had to come and explain how banking works. The man was shocked he could not pay with books. It was financial nonsense. 35. A man stopped a jogging crew member on the track. He looked very puzzled about the physics of the ship. He pointed to the back of the massive vessel nervously. He asked a question that defied all laws of motion. He asked if he walked to the back while moving forward. Would he stay in the exactly same place in the ocean? He thought he was like a character in a video game. He believed walking backwards canceled out the speed of the ship. The crew member explained he would just be at the back. The man was worried he would fall off the map. It was dizzying logic. 36. A woman walked into the luxury spa with a ruler. She approached the receptionist with a very serious facial expression. She pointed to the brochure for the mini facial treatment. She asked exactly how small her face had to be. She believed the service was only for people with tiny heads. She was worried her face was too large for the product. The receptionist had to cover her mouth to hide laughter. She explained that mini referred to the time and not size. The woman was relieved she did not need a shrink ray. She booked the appointment but still felt self-conscious. It was a big misunderstanding. 37. A stressed bride was getting married on the open deck. Dark clouds were gathering and it looked like heavy rain. She marched up to the captain with tears in her eyes. She demanded the crew deploy the weather dome immediately. She pointed to the sky and screamed to cover the ship. She genuinely believed the ship had a glass dome. She thought they could press a button and block the rain. The captain gently explained that weather domes are science fiction. The bride had a meltdown and accused him of ruining her hair. She stood in the rain waiting for a force field. It never appeared for her. 38. A grumpy passenger stopped a uniformed officer in the hallway. The officer was working a 16-hour shift that day. The guest asked him if he had to be crazy. He wanted to know if you must be insane to work there. The tired officer smiled and said it helps a little. The passenger was immediately offended by this lighthearted joke. He marched to guest services to file a formal report. He claimed the officer was insubordinate and rude to him. He wanted the man fired for having a sense of humor. The crew member got a warning for being too honest. It was a harsh reaction. 39. A frantic woman was stopped by agriculture customs in Hawaii. She was trying to leave the ship with a large bag. The officers found a fresh pineapple hidden inside her purse. She grabbed the fruit and hugged it to her chest. She screamed that she could not leave it behind on board. She claimed it was her emotional support pineapple for anxiety. She insisted the fruit helped her calm down during stressful times. The officers had to confiscate the illegal produce immediately. The woman cried as they took her spiky yellow friend. She truly believed the fruit was a service animal. It was a bizarre, tropical tragedy. 40. A panicked man called the plumbing team at 2 a.m. Water was flooding out of his bathroom into the hallway. The plumbers arrived to find a catastrophic sewage disaster. They found a pair of thick denim jeans in the pipe. The man admitted he flushed them down the toilet on purpose. He explained that they were dirty and he wanted to wash them. He thought the toilet was a powerful washing machine for pants. He flooded 3 other cabins with his laundry attempt. The captain charged him thousands for the damage caused. He was forced to leave the ship at the next port. It was a messy mistake. 41. A nervous man called the security department before his trip. He was looking at the Caribbean itinerary with deep concern. He asked if he needed to pack his own weapon. He specifically wanted to bring a musket for protection against pirates. He believed Jack Sparrow was a real modern threat. The security officer explained that guns are strictly prohibited on board. The man argued that he needed to defend his wife. He thought pirate ships would attack them near Barbados. The officer assured him the ship has trained security professionals. The man was disappointed he could not be a hero. He really wanted to fight a buccaneer on the Lido deck. 42. A hopeful photographer approached the concierge desk near Scotland. He was holding a very expensive camera with a zoom lens. He asked a question that made the crew member freeze. He wanted to know the exact schedule for the feeding time. He was referring to the Loch Ness Monster specifically. He thought the cruise line kept the monster as a pet. He wanted to be ready on the deck for photos. The concierge politely explained that Nessie is a mythical creature. The man refused to believe it was just a legend. He claimed he saw the feeding time on a blog. He waited for hours in the cold rain. 43. A selfish vacationer decided to claim his territory early. On the very first morning, he marched to the pool. He brought a roll of silver duct tape with him. He taped his towel to a prime deck chair. He told the pool attendant this was his spot all week. He treated the plastic chair like his private living room. He left the chair empty for 6 hours straight. Other guests were furious and complained to staff. The deck patrol eventually cut the tape and removed it. The man came back screaming about his property rights. He tried to evict the new grandmother sitting there. It was a sticky situation. 44. A curious passenger stopped the captain during a cocktail party. She had a glass of champagne and a serious face. She asked a question about the anatomy of the vessel. She wanted to know if the ship was a boy or girl. The captain smiled and said ships are traditionally called she. The woman was not satisfied with this simple answer. She asked if they had checked underneath to be sure. She wanted them to look at the hull for proof. The captain tried to explain it is just a linguistic tradition. The woman walked away, looking very skeptical. She thought they were hiding the truth about the gender. 45. A distinguished captain was walking through the main atrium. He was wearing his formal white uniform with 4 stripes. He had a hat with gold leaves and a radio. A confused older lady stopped him near the elevators. She tapped him on the shoulder and asked a question. She politely asked him if he worked on the ship. The captain looked down at his stripes in disbelief. He joked that he certainly hopes he works there. The lady just nodded and asked him for directions. She completely missed that he was the master of the vessel. She treated the commander like a busboy. It was total blindness. 46. A concerned man whispered to a waiter in the buffet. He looked at the dirty plates being cleared away. He asked a question that was incredibly insulting to the staff. He asked if the crew had to eat the leftovers. He thought they scraped the chewed food off guest plates. He genuinely believed the staff ate the guests' garbage for dinner. The waiter looked at him with pure horror and disgust. He explained that crew have their own fresh buffet downstairs. The man looked relieved but still suspicious. He thought the staff were living like scavengers. It was a terrible assumption about the quality of crew life. 47. A woman with perfect hair stood at the tour desk. She was booking a snorkeling excursion for the next day. She asked the tour operator a physics-defying question. She wanted to know if she would get wet snorkeling. She expected to float in the water but stay dry. The staff member blinked slowly at this impossible request. He explained that swimming involves being submerged in water. The woman was shocked and canceled her ticket immediately. She did not want to ruin her expensive blow-dry. She thought snorkeling was looking at fish through a glass. She refused to touch the actual ocean water. It was pure vanity. 48. A tourist on his first trip to Cozumel was confused. He was reading the daily newsletter about the port. He asked the cruise director a question about local culture. He wanted to know if the locals spoke Mexican there. He asked if it was different from just speaking Spanish. He thought Mexican was a totally separate language from Spain. The director explained that they speak Spanish in Mexico. The man argued that he wanted to learn the local dialect. He refused to believe that Spanish was the language. He walked off the ship trying to speak loud English. He was determined to find a Mexican speaker. It was embarrassing. 49. A curious tourist was on a nature walk in Alaska. The group stopped in front of a massive totem pole. The intricate wooden faces were carved beautifully by artists. The tourist pointed at the wood and asked the guide. He asked how they get the trees to grow faces. He believed the faces appeared naturally on the bark. He thought nature just grew eyes and mouths on wood. The guide had to explain that humans carved them with tools. The man looked disappointed by this lack of magic. He really thought the forest was full of face trees. It was the dumbest question of the season. The guide nearly quit. Well, there you have it. Absolute proof that money can buy a luxury cruise ticket, but it definitely cannot buy common sense. From the lady who demanded the captain turn off the ocean to the genius looking for an underwater train to Hawaii, my brain is officially hurting. If these stories made you question humanity, you are in the right place here at BrainFumble. Do us a favor and smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into stupidity. Now I have to know, which passenger broke you? Was it the support pineapple smuggler or the guy who thought the crew commutes by helicopter? Let me know in the comments below. Stay smart and see you next time.